Well, it's me. I'm at a meeting. I'll come down in a minute. Can you just give me a minute, please?
That's fine.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car,
At work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
This is Star Radio UK.
It's so hot. I'm afraid it's very hot. Oh, actually, I should have probably put on my personal fan, but it wouldn't look nice.
Are you ready to turn it up?
Yes, we're ready to turn it on.
Welcome. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow. It is a very good evening and welcome to Star Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. The time is just 6 minutes past 6 p.m. rather. Today is the 20th of July 2022. I would like to welcome you all again to this evening of Star Radio UK. If you're joining us for the very first time, this is where we bring you everything that has got to do with Nigeria as a country, and likewise the self-determination, the update, the news. My name is Ola Yomi Koiki, and I would like to welcome each and every one of you as you're coming into the conversation this evening. But tonight, as usual, we have a very powerful guest that is going to be joining me. I can also tell you that he's live already, so there's no hiccup, there's no problem, and there will be a lot to discuss. And that will be the one and only Dr. Oni Bashegun, as is known. I'm going to be bringing him onto the screen in just about a few minutes, but let us first go to this short intro of who he is, and also before we do that, I want us to listen to this because there's something that is generating a lot of conversation and controversy when it comes to the issue of the waterway bill. We might be looking into that tonight, but this evening I would like to appreciate my producer, Mr. Frank David, and Mr. Archie, that are working tirelessly behind the scene, and all this team on Star Radio UK. This is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let us enjoy this, and I'm going to come back to you while we get the program ready this evening. Once again, let us play this. This is what we want. Water
àti olùdarí gbogbo odò ilẹ̀ Yorùbá pátápátá. Ìjọba àpapọ̀ yóò sì jẹ́ aláṣẹ lórí gbogbo odò orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá. Odò Èrò, Ọ̀ṣun, Ọ̀sẹ́, Ìkọgùsì, Ọ̀gbẹ́sẹ̀, Àyọ̀nùgbà, Lẹ́kìtì. Ọmọ ìlú kò láṣẹ níbẹ̀ mọ́. Àyàfi kí wọ́n gba àṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀ tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ ṣe ohunkóhun. Odò Ọ̀ṣun Òṣogbo, àṣẹ bóyá àlè ṣé ti di èèwọ̀ fún ìlú. Ìjọba àpapọ̀ ti di alápàdé Fásẹ̀jì rẹ̀, Ẹ̀rìnlẹ̀, Àfọ̀n, Ọbà àti odò Ọ̀tìn. Odò Òmù nílùú Èkó, odò Ọ̀tà ọ̀nà nílùú Ìkòròdú, Làgún àti odò Lẹ́kì, odò Ọ̀wẹ́nà lóńdó, Yewa àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ ti di tìjọba àpapọ̀. Àlà, Ọ̀sẹ́, Ọ̀gbẹ́sẹ̀, Ìgbọ́kànjá. Àbí ẹ̀gbọ́n ni sí pé ọmọ ìlú lè pàṣẹ ọjọ́ ọdún tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ ṣe àwọn ọdún ìmọ̀. Kódà odò Èkó Pupa ti ìlú Ìbàdàn tá a mọ̀ sókè. Àyàfi kí ọmọ ìlú tàbí ọba Yorùbá gbàṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀. Odò Ọ̀gbà tí ìlú Ìṣẹ́yìn ní pípọ́ ti dé èèwọ̀ láì gbàṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀. Ohun tí wọ́n tábìlì túmọ̀ sí ni pé àṣẹ kan náà tí ọmọ Ìkòròdú ní lórí odò Májídú àbí ti Ọ̀tà ọ̀nà náà ní Fúlàní yóò ní. Àṣẹ tí ọmọ Òṣogbo bá ní lórí Ọ̀ṣun Òṣogbo ni ọmọ Fúlàní náà yóò ní àǹfààní irúfẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Kò sí àǹfààní àti bọ Iyemọja, Ọ̀ṣun Òṣogbo, Ọ̀gbá, Ọ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀, Ọ̀tà ọ̀nà, odò Ògùn láì gbàṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀. Àpapọ̀ ò bá fọwọ́ sí, kò sí àṣẹ náà tó bá mú ìjọba ní o bí kò sì wù wọ́n ọba kan kò ní àṣẹ. Gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá, ọba Yorùbá, ẹ̀yin ọmọ káàárọ̀ òjíire. Olùkọ́ a ò fẹ́ wọ́n tábìlì kó di òfin o torí pé nígbàkúgbà tó bá wù Fúlàní ni wọ́n lè dá màálùú wọ ibikíbi nínú odò Yorùbá. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí àwọn Yorùbá ọjọ́ ọ̀la ògo iye ẹ̀yin ọmọ Yorùbá fún Nàìjíríà o. Gbàjàbíàmílà tòbí kékeré ti sọ wípé gbogbo gómìnà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àti Nàìjíríà lápapọ̀ ti fọwọ́ sí pé kí wọ́n tábìlì ó di òfin. Ọpẹ́lọpẹ́ àwọn tí wọ́n yarí pé gómìnà àwọn kò lè fọwọ́ sí irú ìkónilẹ́rú bẹ́ẹ̀. Gbàjàbíàmílà tó jẹ́ ọmọ Èkó kò takò àbá náà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni àwọn aṣojú ọmọ Èkó nílé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin náà sọ̀rọ̀. Gbogbo ọ̀nà tí Fúlàní yóò fi gba ilẹ̀ mọ́ onílẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ àti odò lèyí o. Alálẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ gbà wá o. Ọ̀rọ̀ lómi ìdó, nàmú lómi ìtàgé. Àbálámọ̀dé kìtì ẹ̀fọ̀n, àbá bíbí ìrẹ́lẹ̀ ìlú Ọ̀páárá. Àwọn ni wọ́n ṣe fá fún ẹkú tọ́tọ́ ní mìíràn. Àwọn ni wọ́n ṣe fá fún òṣàṣẹjọ ní Mósè. Wọ́n ní àwọn bá Ọ̀rúnmìlà jagun. Ọ̀rúnmìlà ń pé ẹ lè bá òun jagun. Gbogbo ọmọ káàárọ̀ àjíire, ìmọ̀tú, ìmọ̀jọ, ìmọ̀ ẹni ni kì í dálẹ̀. Ogun gbogbo, àṣàṣìkáṣàṣì, onílé mú gbogbo ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire pátápátá. Àní àwa ọmọ Yorùbá nílé lóko. Ogun ò ní kó ilẹ̀ wa o. Àti pé ẹkùn tó tọ́ ní orúkọ tí à ń pè ìwọ ẹtù. Gbogbo àbá, ìmọ̀, ọ̀tẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá dìkun Yorùbá. Ó yá ẹtù o, wá lọ sún wọn ká o. Àti gbèsè jọ ní Mósè là ń pè ìwọ ìjọ. Ó yá èyí tí ẹni ilé ayé, tí ẹni ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, tí ẹni ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire ẹni tí o. Ó yá kí ẹ di ejò, kí ẹ wá lọ tú wọn ká lórí wọ́tábìlì yí orílẹ̀-ègbìmọ̀ aṣòfin, kí ẹ wá lọ bá wọn jà. Àti pé ẹ̀yin ìyá mi ẹlẹ́yìí àjẹ́ lórúkọ tí wọ́n ń pe ogun. Ó yá kí ogun kúrò lórí gbogbo ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire pátápátá. Àní ilẹ̀ ọmọ Yorùbá kí ogun padà sọ́dọ̀ àwọn tí wọ́n ní ogun ní o. Kí ogun má lè kó ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire. Àní gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá pátápátá a kò fẹ́ wọ́n tábìlì rárá o láyẹ̀ kò lè wá sí ìmúṣẹ. Ògún dá orí òpè ló sọ bẹ́ẹ̀.
Wow, that was a very powerful one. I would explain all that was being said in there, but now I believe we can have the screen of myself and my guest as quickly as possible because we have a lot to discuss. This is Star Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. And this evening, we have a very powerful guest with me. Like I said, Dr. OLUSOLA Oni. He is the coordinator of ILANAUK UK. And tonight, our focus and our topic will be on the benefit of an independent Yoruba State. And that is right there in the screen that has now popped up. I'd like to first say thank you so much to my coordinator and the producer and also the technical team that are working behind the scene, so that we do not waste a lot of time, because there's a lot to discuss this evening. I'll first and foremost say good evening to you, Dr. Oni. I'm just going to stick to Dr. Oni so that it doesn't, it becomes a little bit much easy for me to pronounce. If that's okay with you, we stick to that. I say good evening and welcome to Star Radio UK, Niger Voices.
That's fine. Thank you very much. The Bashegun is a chieftaincy title, which I'm very proud to display to the world. In fact, as you know, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and all my patients know that I'm Bashegun. I tell everybody that when the Queen confers Sir or Lord on somebody, he calls himself Sir, he calls himself Lord. The Oba of my hometown granted me or invested me with the title of Bashegun, and I'm very, very proud to be known as Bashegun. I am a Yoruba nationalist. I am a Yoruba traditionalist. I am a Yoruba monarchist, and I'm absolutely proud of it.
Wow.
It is interesting that you started with the water bill.
Yes.
It is apparent that those who think themselves to be so powerful in Nigeria think they can just simply take other people's land without any fight. And I don't blame them, because for some reason those people who call themselves our leaders are very timid. They're exceedingly timid. And it is a shame that we have governors, we have Obas who are so timid that Buhari can say almost anything to them and they'll be shaking like jelly. They're all lily-livered. I've always said that the biggest problem that we Yorubas have is our leaders. They are our weakest link. And we have to start thinking of what we are going to do about them. Sri Lanka has given us one way of doing it. They drove out the president. And maybe the time has come for us to start driving out all our governors. We tell them, if you don't do what we want, you have got to leave. And we go to the Oba and we say exactly the same thing. If you don't do what we want, it is time for you to abdicate. And I think we need to be very, very strong with these people. They've been getting away with it because we have just, we suffer from what I call the disease of deference. When you are being brought up in Yoruba, anybody who is older than you is Egban, anybody who is a little bit older is Baba, and you give them respect. But the problem is that people take respect as evidence of authority. The fact that I respect the governor does not mean that I say he has authority over me. I respect his position. And that has been the problem that we Yorubas have. We have mixed respect with authority. The fact that you are older than me or you have been doing it before me does not mean that you are wiser. It doesn't mean that you are more competent. It just means that you are born before me or you've been there before me. And I think we Yorubas need to start revising what we call deference. For everybody. It's got to stop. This is why we are being misled by people who really do not have the right to be our leaders. And we just accept them and we bow down to them. I mean, if somebody is incompetent, why should you bow down for him? He needs to be told he is incompetent. These people are leading us down the terrible path where the Fulani can just... The Fulani couldn't defeat us at Ilorin. Now they are just all over the place. They could not defeat... people talk about Afanja. Afanja had nothing to do with it. We beat the hell out of them. When the Fulani tried to invade Yoruba land, we kicked their butts. And we need to do the same again. I'm sorry that I started this way, but listening to the thing about the water resources bill just really upset me.
Wow, thank you so much. And the benefit of Yoruba is what we're going to discuss. And the waterway bill is something that I want us to touch on before we go into our conversation this evening. actually, there's been a lot of discussion on this, and for those that are not from Nigeria, this might be a little bit confusing. They might not be sure what actually we are discussing. But I'm going to bring up the latest that I got, from the minister. But before I go into that, I say welcome again to you. The last time we had you on this program, it was a fantastic one. We learned a lot from you, and we're expecting to do the same thing, for the benefit of not just the Yorubas. When we say that the Yorubas, want to have their own independence, for a layman in another African country, somewhere in Uganda, in Kenya, South Africa, they are still looking at Nigeria as a country that we can, as a big sister or big brother rather. That means that, if we are saying that we want to come out, would that have an impact on some of these African countries? Maybe that's the reason why some of them are probably not interested, or maybe they are not enlightened to know who are the Yorubas. Can you just take me through, what could be the benefit for the African countries should the Yoruba state stand on its own, before we start talking about, the real benefit for the Yoruba people in the first place?
Okay, I understand, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Let me give you an example of Uganda. There are 4 major tribes in Uganda, each about 8 million people. They are locked together in one country, and it is like the Tower of Babel. People who don't understand each other, who have different cultural backgrounds, different traditions, have been lumped together by the British to form one country. And it's a disaster, because all that the government does is to try and keep the country as one. And if you are spending so much energy doing that, you have nothing left to develop anything. Now, imagine if Uganda had 4 different countries. The 8 million of them are still more in number than many European countries.
And just to help you out, the 4 of them are Baganda, Banyokole, Basuga, and Bakiga. Go ahead.
Imagine if they all had their own country. They speak the same language, they have the same culture, they have the same everything. It's easy. Your parliament is easy. You speak to each other in your language. You don't have to use English to talk to each other. It is your home. You want to develop it the way you like. And that is the same throughout. Look, Africa, if you stuff all the continents together, they can fit into Africa. That's how big Africa is. Although when you look at the map, it looks as if Africa is a small area, in the world. But in fact, the landmass of Africa can take all other continents stuffed into it. No problem at all.
Sorry,
Africa, I'm in the middle of a meeting. Can you just give me a minute? Please?
All right. We'll come back to Bashegu in just about a few minutes. Let's come back to my screen alone, my producer, while Bashegu come back to us. Once again, this is a very good evening and welcome to Star Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. While we're waiting back for Bashegu, let me first, go back to the waterway bill. A lot of Nigerians are probably going to wake up one morning. Okay, it looks like Bashegu is back with us, and I say thank you so much, Bashegu, for going to spend your evening with us in this very hot weather, when I expect you to be somewhere in the park and then enjoying the weather. But it seems as someone that believes in this cause, the Yoruba nation, you've decided that you're going to be spending that with us this evening, even on a very short notice, when we called you this morning before 8 o'clock. So you were actually giving us the background to how big it is. You were discussing the Uganda, and I'm just going to let you continue on that.
Okay, what I was saying, I'm just a little bit hot. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we got to take off that little bit of it's been very hot, I can assure you that, and it is quite hot here as well in the studio, especially when we discuss the issues around the benefit of Yoruba nation.
Yes. Now, Africa has 52 countries. Africa can take another 50 countries without any difficulty at all. And a lot of the countries will still be bigger than many European countries. Now, wow. In Europe, France, the French have their France, the Germans have their Germany, Italians have their Italy, Spaniards have their Spain. But what do we have in Africa? In Nigeria, we've got 300 different nationalities stuffed together in one place. And since 1914, the whole edifice of Nigeria has been for Yoruba land to feed northerners. That's what we spent the last over 100 years doing. The reason for amalgamation was to steal our money to give them to the north, to rob Peter to pay Paul. The Fulani are so used to this cake that they don't have to work for, that all they do is to try and take more cake, take more cake, take more cake. And that is the problem with the Yoruba, with the waterways bill. They are not satisfied with all that they've taken. They want more. Now do you know, according to this water bill, you couldn't sink a borehole in your backyard without asking Abuja for permission. You couldn't fish in your local brook, in your local stream, without asking these idiots in Abuja for permission. Who the hell do they think they are? Who the hell do they think they are? The impertinence. The impertinence. You have nothing. Not only do they not have natural resources, they don't even have the brain power to improve their own place. All the money that these idiots have been taking from Nigeria, what do they do with it? Nothing. They still have the worst education record in the world. The poorest people are in the north. They take the money to go and develop Dubai. These people whose brains are upside down, these Fulani whose brains are upside down, they take the money that they steal from Nigeria, they take it to Dubai to go and develop Dubai. Well, you know, these are the sort of people that my mother will call Okonu, morons. That you will take your own money, you don't develop your place at all, you go to Dubai. To think of anybody with any common sense, you build a refinery hundreds of miles from where the oil is coming. What did they think? What are they thinking about? And everybody goes around talking about one Nigeria, one Nigeria. How can that be one Nigeria? Where you live, the place where the oil comes out of, you leave it undeveloped. You go and put a refinery in the same thing. They want to have a naval school in Kano. So the Yoruba land has probably the longest beach in Africa. I've been very surprised if there's a longer beach, longer seafront. Well, at least in West Africa, we have the longest seafront. You want to then take your navy to Kano, where there is no sea. And this is how these people behave. Their brain is upside down. They think that they can get away. They can never develop until the South develops.
Sorry to interject. Let me tell you what the minister says, because the minister actually disagrees with your own view, and this is coming from one of the dailies back in Nigeria. This afternoon or probably this evening. I mean, we talked about this during the update on the Star Radio UK at 11 o'clock. Water resources bill will boost national economy, according to the minister. And it goes further to say the Minister of Water Resources, Mr. Sulaiman Adamu, I'm definitely sure that is somebody from the northern part of Nigeria, has said that the water resources bill currently before the National Assembly is intended to boost the national economy and not to take away authority from Nigerians. Adamu also said that contrary to the willful misinterpretation by somebody like you and the others made by those who are unfamiliar with the measure, the bill was created to handle both the country's present and future water needs. What will you say to that?
Bologna is talking absolute rubbish. This is the third time they are going to present this bill. This is not the first time. They are now presenting this bill at the end of Buhari's time in office. When are they going to get this economy going? In the 6 months that is left? It's rubbish. How will you boost the economy by me having to ask permission to put a borehole in my house? How does that boost the economy? How does it boost the economy for me to have to ask you for permission before I could fish in my own backyard? How does that boost the economy? This is the problem. These people are so arrogant. They are so arrogant that they talk so much rubbish, and they talk out of the back of their heads, and they think the rest of us are foolish. The problem that we have had, and I think has come to a head, this is why everybody wants to leave Nigeria, is that not only are the Fulani backward people, not only are they animals in their behavior, we don't want to have anything to do with them at all. These are the people who are raping our women. These are the people who are destroying our farms. These are the people who are killing our people. These are the people who are going to churches to murder our worshippers. And they say they want to be in the same. They want us to be in the same country with them. No, we don't want you anymore. If you want to kill it, go and kill yourselves wherever you are. Can you imagine in 2022 for a group, a people, the Fulani, to expect their young men to be trekking around with cows, not to go to school, not to achieve anything, but to follow cows around in 2022? And then you are talking what? I mean, the stupidity is mind-blowing. How stupid the Fulani are is mind-blowing.
I mean, you talk about that. I was looking at, the outrage over the installation of it. We've not even talked about, the conversation, which we have an ample of time. We're still going around to see, why should we continue, to be part of a system? But were you also outraged over the installation of a terrorist, Ado Alaro, as a second Fulani in Zamfara State, with more than 100 other Boko Haram terrorists in attendance? This was not happening in Niger. This was actually happening in the northern part of Nigeria. And the question then is, why then should other, like Nnamdi Kanu, that is, that has been kept in the prison, Chief Sunday Igboho, when we look at Chief Sunday Igboho, as of today is almost a year when we were still trying to get what has actually happened in Benin Republic when Chief Sunday Igboho was detained yesterday was 1 year on his way to Germany. And as we speak today, he can't get back to to the southwest, in Yoruba land. He's been pinned down to Benin Republic. But in Zamfara State, there was an installation of a terrorist taking place.
Remember what I said right at the beginning, that our leaders are our weakest link.
Our leaders are our weakest link.
Yoruba leaders are the weakest link of the Yorubas. That is our biggest problem. 30 million people, and these buffoons want to exile Igboho and exile Akintoye. And we are at 30 million of us. And we don't rise up and say, no, it's not going to happen. We don't rise up. I mean, if we rose up against the Fulani, who are they going to fight and defeat? Remember, it took them 3 years to fight Biafra War. And if it wasn't for Yoruba officers like the Black Scorpion, Adekunle, we will never have won the Biafra War. We will never have won the Biafra War. All the Fulani officers were incompetent, including the one that Ikeja Airport is named after. He was an incompetent officer. The Yorubas were the ones who defeated Biafra. So when we are talking about their bragging, it is because our leaders are buffoons. They are lily-livered buffoons. If they want, we will never be in the situation we are in today. For somebody who is campaigning for the freedom of the Yoruba to be hounded out of Yoruba land, and the Yorubas did nothing. We have leaders and they did nothing, and yet Gumi walks around, talks to terrorists, gets money for those who are kidnapping. Let me tell you something. The Northerners are going to pay for the way they are behaving, because the day that we leave Nigeria is the day that their disaster starts. They are stupid. For them to be hobnobbing with terrorists, they will suffer for it. And let nobody make any mistake. The Yorubas are going to leave Nigeria one way or the other. Anybody who thinks we are going to leave Nigeria, and I can tell you the difference between us and the other. Look at what happened in the fight for the prime ministership of the UK. A Yoruba girl was there. A Yoruba girl was one of those who fought to be prime minister of the UK. Not only that, she came forth. This was somebody who wasn't known even to us as Yoruba. And came forth. And she was popular amongst the grassroots. That is how we Yoruba, we are civilized people. That is what Omoluabi means. We are civilized people. We should not be sharing the same country with barbarians. And they are the people who have been dragging us down all these years. Just close your eyes and imagine for a minute that what Awolowo did between 1952 and 1959 was continuing till today. We will be the same as South Korea. We will be the same as Singapore. I visited Singapore in 1970 as a medical student. It was a fishing village. Go to Singapore today and see what the place is like. All these people used to come to Nigeria, to Ibadan, to ask how we were doing things. These stupid people, since 1966, have wrecked everything. Since the military took power in 1966, the Fulani has wrecked everything in Nigeria. They wrecked themselves and they wrecked the rest of us. So, from my point of view, Africans need to learn that they do not have to stay in countries that are so many linguistic, so many tribes, so many whatever it is, so many nationalities. No. What is the point of the Cameroon insisting on Bakassi Peninsula to be part of Cameroon? Why? What is the gain? You speak French, they speak English, they want to go on their own, they have their own nation, and you insist that they have to be part of Cameroon. Why? And the guy has been there for I don't know how many. I mean, you know, the son of the first president of the Cameroons was my classmate at medical school. Why do you still want the Bakassi Peninsula to be part of Cameroon? Why? For what purpose? This is recurring all over Africa, where there are different nationalities. I gave you an example of Uganda before, where there are different nationalities stuck together, and then they are spending all their national treasure to keep countries together, to keep nations together. And
so what you are actually saying is, there is no reason why, we should have, these, 52 African countries when we can have another extra 50 and there will be room for it as well. Because, from what you're saying, we do have countries that are even not up to 1 million inside some European countries. And that means that we still have enough room, to have more countries rather than stock. But before you say anything, this is what Tafawa Balewa Abubakar Tafawa Balewa said in 1948. Since the 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country, and they're also advising Nigerians to go get their PVC so that they can chase maybe the PDP away, bring in the APC. I don't know which one they want to chase away. But Tafawa Balewa said, and I quote, since 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. But the Nigerian people themselves are historically different in their background, in their religious beliefs and their customs, and do not show themselves any signs of willingness to unite. Nigerian unity is only a British intention for the country. This was said in 1948. Oh, yes. Why are we still together?
Exactly. In fact, Ahmadu Bello said something similar as well, that the amalgamation was a mistake. I don't want to really get into this bit because, if it wasn't for Zik Azikiwe, Nigeria would not be Nigeria today. Because of all the leaders, he was the only one who wanted Nigeria. The others didn't want Nigeria. In fact, they wanted inserted into the constitution a secession clause. It was Zik who opposed it. So, that man is the architect of the disaster that we have in Nigeria today. And he was, because he was simply an agent of the British. The guy was the agent of the British. If you read a lot of the editorials that he wrote, particularly about the Yoruba and so on and so forth, that's why I don't like to go there at all, because if you go back to read what this guy had written, and still he wanted to one Nigeria, it's because he assumed that if we had one Nigeria, he would be whatever it is he thought he would be.
Okay.
The British itself did not think that Nigeria should be one.
So if Britain agrees that Nigeria should be one, would there be benefit of a Yoruba state? Let's start looking into that, bit by bit. Yoruba wants to have their own, independent, self-determined, have their own, sovereignty, that they can make decisions without using Nigeria, using the Fulanis, to suppress and subdue us as they're trying to take away the waterway bills. The conversation tonight at exactly 18:40, which is about almost 20 minutes before 7 p.m., the benefit of a Yoruba state. Let's start looking at it bit by bit. What are we going to benefit? Because more people are saying we can benefit in Nigeria, in one country, one united country, than a benefit inside the Yoruba nation. Let's take it one at a time.
Okay. Before I answer, start, I'll put a question that I usually put to people who tell me Nigeria is this, that, and the other. I ask them the question: what does Nigeria offer you that Yoruba nation cannot offer you? What? Exactly what? And I point to the fact that a country like Barbados, for example, is less than 1 million people. One vote at the UN probably has more power in London than Nigeria. Do you know why? Because a lot of people from Britain go to Barbados on holidays. And therefore, if anything happens to Barbados, they have friends in the UK. And that goes the same for all the other Caribbean islands. Trinidad and Tobago, 1 million people.
Well, let me help you out. The population is 287 as of 2020 Barbados. Go ahead.
And Trinidad is about 1 million. It's a country that I know very well, that I visit very well. So I know they're about 1 million. And yet they have the same vote at the UN, and they have more clout than Nigeria has. Because all the other countries outside of Africa know that Nigeria is a joke. They know Nigeria is a joke. But before I start talking, I need to make a distinction between Yoruba nation and Yoruba state. Because everybody talks about Yoruba nation, Yoruba nation. It is interesting that our forefathers actually distinguished between the two. Yoruba nation, the Yorubas called Orile-Ede. It's to do with language. That is what a nation is to the Yoruba. So, for example, when we talk about Yoruba nation, we talk about the Yorubas of Togo, they're part of Yoruba nation. Yoruba of Benin, part of Yoruba nation. Yoruba of Brazil, part of Yoruba nation. Yorubas of Cuba, Yorubas of Colombia, they're all part of the Yoruba nation. The Yoruba state is different. Yorubas call it Shakani Ilu. Shakani Ilu, that's what the Yorubas call it. It's a territory, an administrative territory. So our forefathers, our own forefathers, this is the beauty of the Yoruba, of the ancient Yoruba, is how civilized these people were, that they were able to distinguish between what you call a nation, Orile-Ede, and what you call a state, which is Shakani Ilu. And what I'm talking about now is the state, the Yoruba state, which is bounded by the River Niger to the north, the River Niger to the east, the Atlantic Ocean to the south. And the good Lord put that barrier there, that L-shaped barrier there, to keep our enemies away from Yoruba land. It is the British that have brought our enemies to us. So What are the benefits of a Yoruba state? I think I've got about a dozen of them, and I'll take them one by one. The first one is this: we can do things the Yoruba way. Let me say that again. We can do things the Yoruba way. We have our own distinct Yoruba convention. We have our own culture. We have our own tradition. We have our own laws from ancient times. And I wrote a book on Yoruba law, which anybody can buy from Amazon. The English denigrated it to customary law. But in fact, our law, if you go and read my book, you find that our law is a lot better than English law. We had our own system of government, what I call the constitutional Oba system. Lugard said it was democratic. Lugard himself said the Yoruba had a democratic system of government. I call it the constitutional Oba. And sometime, if you bring me back on your program, I will explain what the constitutional Oba is. And we have what is called the Omoluabi ethos, which makes the Yoruba a cultured people, civil, congenial, generous, hospitable. Just, you can find any word for it. So the first benefit we get is that we now can do things the Yoruba way, the Omoluabi way. We will get rid of the Nigerian disease, which is, the Nigerian disease is Emilokan, Emilokan, Emilokan. The Yoruba disease is Awa Lokan. That's the difference between Emilokan and Awa Lokan. The second benefit is that we can keep Yoruba money in Yoruba land. Since 1914, we Yoruba have been feeding Nigeria. Since 1914, we've been feeding the entire country. The entire country depends on 75% of income of Nigeria comes from Yoruba land. The customs, customs is Yoruba land. If you talk about taxes, companies' taxes and so on, it comes from Yoruba. How many people pay tax in the north? How many companies pay tax in the north? We, Yoruba land, are the ones who pay the taxes. We are the ones who have the companies. We are the ones who feed the entire nation of Nigeria. Just close your eyes for a minute and imagine that all that money was retained in Yoruba land. Just close your eyes for a minute. Imagine that the money was retained in Yoruba land. We are talking about 1 trillion naira every year. 1 trillion naira, which will now be in our own economy. 1 trillion, which will now be in Yoruba economy. Imagine what that will do to Yoruba land. Just imagine it. The third benefit is that we can develop Yoruba land the way we want to do it. We can develop our country to the way we want to do it. We have the human capital in abundance. And I was talking about Kemi, who was standing for election of the Prime Minister. A lot of Nigerian doctors are in the National Health Service in the UK. I am one of them. A lot of the nurses, even new nurses, are being recruited today from Nigeria to run the National Health Service. And we have Yorubas in different parts of the world as professionals. We are the people who have not done artificial intelligence, robotics, science, technology. There is nothing that faces us as Yoruba people. There's nothing we cannot do. We have arable and fertile land. I tell people, this morning when you first sent me a text, I was in my allotment. I don't know whether people know what allotment is. You have a little patch of land where you grow whatever it is you like to grow. I was there this morning watering my plants. Now, in this country, you only have a small window to plant anything. In Yoruba land, if you spit anywhere, something will grow. Just spit. Something will grow. That's how fertile land, that's how arable our land is. We can grow almost anything. We have mineral resources, yet untapped, many untapped. We've got bitumen, we've got marble, we've got gold that Fulanis are stealing. We even have oil in Yoruba land. Now, look at our landscape. We can harness renewable energy, especially turbines. We can use wind turbines because, for example, the area where I come in, the Ekiti Ondo area, there are hills everywhere where you can put wind turbines. I always remember my first view of New Zealand when we flew in, and you could see on the horizon miles and miles of wind turbine producing electricity. We have sunshine to use solar power. We've got all these things. We will never, ever, ever in Yoruba land be short of electricity. Never, ever. We have untapped. I mean, how many tourists come to Nigeria? We have untapped resources. You know, we've got historical sites, we've got sites of natural beauty, we've got a Google festival that is carnival in that is called Carnival in the West Indies and in Cuba. That is our Egungun festival that these people are doing. You do it in Notting Hill Carnival. It's our Egungun festival that has become all these things, that has become Carnival. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is this, which is very important, is that we Yoruba can play a more visible and constructive role on the global stage. We can play a more visible and constructive role on the global stage. We have social and physical sciences perfected by the ancient Yoruba. We don't do anything with them. Ifa and so on and so forth. The Ifa oracle is a probabilistic system. It's available for scientific exploitation. I refer to this I wrote a book on Yoruba medicine, and I refer to Ifa there, how Ifa probability system. There's also Ibere. Most people, when you talk about Ibere, they laugh, but they don't know that what it is an intradermal technique of introducing medicine. So somebody who cannot take medicine by mouth, somebody who's vomiting or whatever, you can give him the medicine by scarification. That people are laughing at. You can use it to introduce analgesia, that is painkiller. You can use it to boost the body's defenses. You can use it for contraception. And the vaccination, do you know that it was the Yoruba that introduced it to the world? Do you know that? Vaccination that people talk about, it was the Yoruba, it was a Yoruba slave called Onismus, introduced it into the United States. Smallpox vaccination. It was telling them when people were dying of smallpox, you can prevent people from dying from smallpox if you scarify them with pus from somebody who has smallpox. That's how smallpox vaccination started. There are other scientific things like the herringbone system of drainage that our forefathers described thousands of years ago. That's how, in the ancient times, so that there will be not mud around your house, they had this herringbone pattern of drainage of surface water that when the rain falls, it drains into a sump. And when people saw it, they said, this is worshipping of Orisha or whatever. Because everything that we do in Africa, they don't look at it as science, they look at it as something mumbo jumbo.
So how do we change these narratives? And before you go further, because it seems I've been following these, and I remember when I was young, bere was something that almost every household in Yoruba land at some point you would have to use bere. But going further, in today's 21st century, it looks like we're trying to run away from those things as fetish.
That's because you don't understand. I mean, my daughter, who is a plastic surgeon, her thesis, her PhD thesis, she wrote on intradermal application of medicine. Instead of using bere, she used laser. She used laser beam to do this exactly the same thing that you do with bere. Use laser beam and then you put medicine.
Wow.
So I mean, these are things that we have. In my book on Yoruba medicine, I was trying to explain the difference between our medicine and the medicine of the Ayurveda of the Indians and the acupuncture, whatever, of China. Yoruba medicine was based on pathology. That is, the Yorubas believed that something caused disease, not mumbo jumbo that people now tell us. Our people believe that kokoro is the one that causes disease. Tanwiji is the one that causes disease. When mosquito bites you, you get disease. So the basis of Yoruba medicine has always been pathology. We were not like the Chinese or the Indians believing in mumbo jumbo as the cause of your disease. Meridian lines that don't exist. The Yorubas believed in physical sciences. We can't do any of this. We cannot investigate any of this as long as we are part of Nigeria. And I said this.
So all these, that you're saying that if we continue to remain in Nigeria, we will not be able to explore.
No. And I can tell you, you can't. When I was a medical student, those who are my teachers, the young people who are my teachers, were exploring a lot of these avenues. I remember doing some work in Professor Oshukoya's laboratory. Oshukoya was one of the first on this planet to discover the molecular basis of immunity at Ibadan. If he had been in the US or the UK, the man could have been near Nobel Prize. And you can pick each one like that at the other devils, the Imakus, who are Professor Ungu, who was looking at Bucket, the etiology of Bucket's tumor, looking at AP virus, Epstein-Barr virus. I was a medical student then, that these people were looking at these sort of things. Because once these stupid people took over since 1966, they gradually dumbed down the entire country.
Was it intentionally, that all these was something to bring, a particular powerful, tribe like the Yoruba down? Because a lot of those that are in their 19 years old, 20 years old, what you're discussing, they're still believing in one country called Nigeria. And as of today now, they even saying the Nigerian passport has increased. We've actually gone up a little bit, 3 more added. I'm going to try and bring that out. I just saw the article now. But a lot of the Yorubas that are probably not understanding some of what you're discussing. I've taken note of some of those things just to recap on it to help those that are joining us. You said, and I quote, we can do things the Yoruba ways. Exactly. That is something that I love so much. The Yoruba law. You said you will come back at some point to come and discuss our own system of government using the constitutional order. You talked about the Omoluabi ethos. Get the Nigerian disease out of us. Keep the Yoruba money in Yoruba land, because it's very important, because when we look at the money from Nigeria, it's actually all over the world, and that means there's no development in the Yoruba land. You also talk about 75% of income is coming from the Yoruba land. You talk about the taxes. We can develop Yoruba land the way we want. That are things that a lot of people do not know, but yet they're campaigning for 2023. We will come back on that, and I want to come back to you so that you can continue from where you stop. You
see, when I talk about these things, I find it very painful, really. When you are talking about what we have lost. This is the title of my book on Yoruba law, in fact, that, this is the word that we have lost. When we have laws, we have science, we have everything, and it's all disappeared, almost disappeared. And the only way we are going to revive any of this is if we have our own nation. The fifth benefit, I will tell you the fifth benefit, which it links to what we have just said, is that we can educate and employ our youth the way we want it.
Can you repeat that again? We can educate
and employ our youth, our young people,
our youth,
the way that we want it. This was Awolowo's vision all those years ago. Ibiti Awolowo that is been different from every leader we've had is that Awolowo's goal, the goal was development. But he had a vision of how to get to that development. That vision was free primary education. If people were educated, it will be life more abundant. Educate your people and it will be life more abundant. That was the vision. That was the message. Everybody thinks, free education. No, Awolowo had a goal. The goal was development. But how to get there was his vision. And that is what is lacking today. People talk about self-determination. Everybody, that is a goal. But the vision of how to get there is lacking. Absolutely lacking. When you talk about people who are leading self-determination movement, this, that, and the other, that vision, like what Awolowo had, they lack it. They don't have that vision. That is, how do we go from A to B? All they are looking at is B, not how to go from A to B. That is what is called vision. And I always say that a leader, the most important thing in a leader is vision. He has to be, what do they call it again? He has to be somebody who's honest, trustworthy, strong, yada, yada, yada. Rubbish. What you want in a leader is vision. What Singapore had was a leader who had vision. He knew where he wanted his people to go. That's what vision is. All our people, when come out from Iboka Kiri, they talk all sorts of garbage. They don't have vision. That is, this is where we are going. This is the goal. How do we get there? That is the vision. Now, what has happened to education of our youth? Federal character. I tweeted recently that somebody from Zamfara, the child from Zamfara, only needed to score 9 points in the school certificate exam. But if you come from Anambra State, you have to score 139 before you can. You are going to the same place, the same higher education. One person needs only 9 points to score 9 points. Another one requires 139, and you call yourself a country. You say a united country, one indivisible country, where one child only needs to score 9, and that's the female. Male in Savannah doesn't even have to score more than 6. You then compare it to somebody from Anambra State who has to score 139. That is what your federal character does. Nigeria kills our children's talents, particularly in science and technology. What in Babuwe? The quota system has destroyed everything. The Yorubas have been in the forefront of education since 1955. We have the largest tertiary sector in Nigeria. The largest tertiary sector. I am a beneficiary of Awolowo's primary education. I started in 1955. Village primary school, went to secondary school. From secondary school, I took an entrance exam to UI from me to a village boy. Village education. I was good enough to take an entrance exam to go to the University of Ibadan Medical School. You couldn't do it now. When we have our own Yoruba nation, there will be employment opportunities for our children in commerce, in industry. Just think of it yourself. Again, close your eyes and think of it. When we will have our children in the police. We will have our own children in the army. Customs new, Air Force new. Employment. I mean, you can imagine that the first 2-3 years of Yoruba nation, imagine how many of our young people will be employed as policemen, as customs officers, in the army, in the navy, in everywhere. Just imagine it. All these things that we share with Nigeria will be on our own. We'll be able to employ our own children. We don't have to employ anybody else. The sixth point I want to make is this. When we have our own nation, we can secure our external and internal borders.
What do we mean by that?
There wouldn't be Fulani porously coming to Nigeria, would there? They can't come to Yoruba land without a visa. When we have our own country, remember I was telling you the natural barrier that the good Lord put there, River Niger cuts us away from the north, cuts us away from the east. To come to Yoruba land, you need a visa. You can't just walk in, and that will allow us to keep out of the undesirables from Yoruba land. Yoruba land, people with no fixed abode, no job, nothing. You know, you see them littering our streets, sleeping under bridges, and so on and so forth. They will no longer be, they're undesirables. They will no longer be allowed. As I said, the good Lord put the River Niger there for a reason. Put it there to keep us away from all these other people. That's why we were able to develop, because we didn't mix with any of these yeye people. That's how we were able to develop in Yoruba land. The seventh point, I mean, the points that I'm making, they are not in any particular order. I'm just,
yes,
they're just as they come. When we have our own nation, we will be able to keep our language and our culture. We won't need to, like this interview now, I'm talking to you in English. We'll be talking to each other in Yoruba.
So what is the advantage of this particular language when we talk in the language that just like the German, the French, the Spanish? What is the benefit of this Yoruba language itself?
Because actually it's we are able to communicate better. The English that we speak to each other, remember, is learned language. And no matter how well you speak English, it's not quite the same as Yoruba. When you speak, the meaning of words in Yoruba are fascinating. All we do is...
So when we remove English from Nigeria today, what will become of Nigeria?
That's their problem. I couldn't care less about Nigeria. I'm only interested in Yoruba land. If they want to keep speaking English, let them get on with it. Look, the Welsh here, they have gone back to learning Welsh. Because everybody realizes that your mother tongue is the best way of communicating, with each other, with one another. It's your mother tongue. When you're like I'm speaking English to you, now it's easier. But when I first came here, you have to first of all think in Yoruba, and then translate into English. That's one step gone. If you are speaking your own language, that is one step gone already. So that your communication will be a lot better. And one of the things that I say, remember I told you I'm a Yoruba nationalist, a Yoruba traditionalist, a Yoruba. One of the things that I say is this, that I am grateful to my forefathers, absolutely grateful, that not only did they give me the best DNA on this planet, they also gave me a civilization that is indestructible. Other civilizations will have disappeared, whether it's taking the slavery, their colonization. So the Yoruba civilization has stood fast. Our culture, our tradition has survived everything that's been thrown at it, including the religion. What did we do? We translated the Bible into Yoruba. We have been able to keep our culture and our tradition intact. And the best way of keeping it forever is to live on our own. Is to be our own country, our own nation. Then we don't have to adulterate our language. If you go to France, they speak French. Spain, same. Italy, same. Portugal, same. Why should we be any different? Why should we be any different? The next few things I'm going to say are a little bit more controversial. The next one is this. When we have our own nation, we can then get compensation for slavery. We can fight for and get compensation for slavery. Between 1400 and 1800, about 10 million Yoruba were forcibly removed from Yoruba land and taken to the Americas. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. They were transported as slaves. And what did they do? They built America. We built America with our blood and our sweat. And yet, we have not received any compensation for it. When we have our own nation, we will demand the compensation. And it's now being recognized. For example, California has recognized that the black people built California, and they are now looking for ways of compensating the black people. We will be able to apply for all that kind of money. The reparation money is going to come. And this is nothing new. Look, Holocaust survivors, do you know how much they got? Billions of dollars. The Jews who survived the Holocaust, they were paid billions of dollars. Even World War II, the people who were interned in World War II, they were paid in the millions. So when we say we want recompense, when we say reparation, there's history, there's precedent. People have been compensated for the Holocaust. They've been compensated for being interned in the Second World War. We too will be able to ask for reparation money. We can't do it in Nigeria. We cannot do it in Nigeria. We will be able to do it when we are on our own. The next thing, which again is also controversial, is this: that the British took money from us. The British, not just the money they took to the north to go and develop the north, they too took money so that we can get refund of the resources that they took from Yoruba land without our consent. And I will put figures on it, because this comes from Lugard's report to Parliament. In 1913, the British Empire took 8.5 million pounds from Yoruba land. In 1913.
Wow.
In 1917, they took 12 million pounds. America took 1.8 million. When I was reading, I was asking how did America get involved in it? America took 1.8 million pounds from Yoruba land. And to even make matters worse, even more painful, Britain was in debt after the First World War. They took 6 million pounds from Yoruba land to pay for that debt. Do you understand that? In the First World War,
So we were paying for what we have nothing to do with.
Exactly. The British took 6 million pounds from Yoruba land to pay for their debt. We didn't fight anybody. We were not involved. Nothing. It had absolutely nothing to do with us. And yet, they took money from us to go and pay their debt. We will be entitled to ask for our money back. We were not involved in the war. We didn't fight anybody. We don't know who Germans are. We don't know who whatever. And you took money from us to pay for the debt that you incurred fighting the Germans. In today's money, we are talking of trillions of pounds. So at least 1 trillion pounds. When you look at it, remember 8.5 million in 1913, 12 million in 1917, another 6 million to war reparation. And America took.
You just help us with the breakdown again, because so that I can just have it as my own notepad again. Let's go through the stages of the breakdown again.
Okay, 1913, they took 8.5 million.
8.5.
Yes. 1917, they took 12 million.
12 million.
America took 1.8 million. America took 1.8 million.
So now Yoruba land was used as one kind of banking system. They needed the money.
And then 6 million.
Okay.
6 million was taken to service the imperial war debt.
Service the imperial war debt. Wow.
Why are we involved in any war that they are taking money from us to service their debt? Those are the figures from Lugard's report to Parliament. We don't know how other monies that they didn't report to. We are just talking about the one that Lugard reported.
So go ahead. Yes, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead. No, what I wanted to say is, looking at some of these, and as of today, a lot of people are still then trying to pull down the Yorubas from not getting what could it be a benefit to them. I was actually watching one of our brother back in Nigeria, but back on farm, and it was showing me a community in one of his videos this morning where there's no water, there's no services, nothing is literally working. We've not even got to where we are going to be giving, those kind of benefit to those at home. But it seems there's a systematic reason that some wants to pull down this Yoruba nation moving forward. Maybe so that people will not understand and enjoy the benefit, and they'll probably tell you benefit can be enjoyed when you die. You will probably go to the heaven.
One of the reasons why you say that the Fulani are stupid is that they have not used the benefit of the resources in Yoruba land to develop Nigeria. All they have done is to bring everything down to their peasant level. The way that people don't know, we had television, before France. The Yorubas had television before most of European countries. We had TV system. It's unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. The Liberty Stadium was built to the standard of Olympic standard. Liberty Stadium, I watched Jim Fulmer fight Dick Tiger. I watched James Brown there. Liberty Stadium was so unique. They had a village. Totally different. So you had the stadium, you had the athletes' village where the athletes practice, everything to Olympic standard. Built in the 1950s. Everything. Look at what they build now. Just look at what they build now. Everything is just wishy-washy. There's no thoughts, completely all they have done one by one is to pull the Yoruba down. And they've been doing it since 1960. When people talk, we want to go back to, what did they call it again? Fiscal federalism. We want to go back to restructuring. Absolute baloney. Rubbish. These people have been bringing the Yorubas down since 1959. The only time that democracy worked in Nigeria was when the British were still here to be referees.
Wow.
When we had self-government between 1952 and 1959, where each region was allowed to develop on its own. And it was so obvious, the difference between Yoruba land and the others. It was so absolutely obvious. Whilst all these others were too busy with politics, Awolowo was busy with developing Yoruba land. People from South Korea, from Malaysia, from Singapore came to Yoruba land to ask, how are you managing to do this sort of thing? Do you know that we had a tire factory in Ibadan? Odutola Tire Souls. Do you know that?
I heard about it, yes.
We had it. When one talks about this thing, it's painful. What was this? There was a what do you call it? Some Italian car company in those days that had something in Ibadan. I can't remember their name now. They had something. There was our neighbor. I remember a small, almost like in his garage. He was canning moi moi elemimeje, jollof rice, stew. That's what the guy had the idea that when you are somebody who is working, you are single, and you get home, you want to eat, get a can of jollof rice with a can of moi moi, with another can of, and he called the thing obelawo. I still remember it vividly in the 1950s, obelawo. You know, between my hometown and Ibadan, when we used to travel, you smelled cocoa all the way through. You can smell the cocoa all over Yoruba land. You smell cocoa everywhere. That was how we didn't have oil or anything. We did not owe. Awolowo did not borrow a penny for anything that he did. All the money came from cocoa. They didn't borrow any money from anybody. All the money came from cocoa. The Yoruba, of course, they didn't have to borrow anymore. As I've just told you, as far back as 1930, nothing kowo walo. You didn't have to borrow any money. What do you want to borrow money for when even the British were taking money from us? You didn't borrow money for what? The Yorubas paid for the railway that Lugard and Co started. Awala somewhere. The British didn't pay for it. The British didn't pay for any development in Yoruba land. We paid for it ourselves. They didn't have to because we had the resources. The 10th benefit of a Yoruba state is that we can motivate the Yoruba diaspora to do great things. And I think I gave you the example of Kemi's push to be the British Prime Minister. You know, the Jews are motivated to do great things because they have a homeland, Israel. When somebody did a survey of asking the Jews what motivated them, 70% said they were motivated because of the state of Israel. They were motivated to achieve what they were achieving in the diaspora, not in Israel. They were motivated to achieve what they were achieving in the diaspora because they have a homeland. And in our homeland, the homeland will be able to invite anybody. We have what I call an international certificate, just like the Jews. The Yorubas and the Jews are the only two peoples who have what I call international certificate. A badge of suffering, being dispersed, and so on and so forth. We are the two people. They have a homeland, Israel, and we should have one too. That homeland we motivate, because when it was like when I first came to the UK, and you are looking for jobs and so on and so forth, and I was able to tell people that I came from the University of Ibadan Medical School. The medical school the name was so good when I first came here. You almost did not need an interview to get a job. You just needed to turn up and say, I am a graduate of the University of Ibadan Medical School. That was it. And when I went, because Newcastle was where I went when I first came, there were lots of Yoruba people there, Yoruba graduates who are going back to Nigeria to medical. A bunch of us. We are giving jobs on the strength of the fact that this Ibadan University was the university. The medical school was the medical school. And you could get a job. And it meant you had to work hard. You couldn't afford to fail any exam because these people thought, oh, Ibadan boy, he must be very good. He must be intellectually sound and so on. So you couldn't fail. You had to pass the exam. Even if it killed you, you worked hard day and night in order to pass the exam. And you will not believe that Edinburgh, of which I'm a fellow, they had the first Yoruba fellow in Edinburgh in something like 1860. Omo Yoruba to the fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh. I am still planning to do a documentary to show the link between the Yoruba and the Edinburgh medicine that goes back all the way to 1860. That we Yoruba have been, when this is why when you are a Yoruba, you need to be proud. You have every reason to be proud of it, to be Yoruba, because imagine 1860 to have a Yoruba. In fact, most people don't even know that the first medical school in Africa was established in 1861 in Abeokuta. Most people don't even know that. There are four students that started. Two of them went to where eventually ended up in Edinburgh. So the tenth benefit is that we can motivate our Yoruba diaspora to do great things wherever they are. And if they do great things, they will do great things for us. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
That if our people are doing well abroad, they will bring the benefit home.
It will come down to those back in the Yoruba land.
Exactly. And that takes me back to my final benefit, because I'm getting a bit tired now. My final benefit, which is that we can bring our people home. That our children who go to medical school, go to university in Nigeria, the first thing they do is they go abroad. They can't find job. There's insecurity. They go abroad. And they are successful abroad. We want them to come back home to be successful. The research that I did in this country, I have about 85 publications. The research that I did on the healing of fractures and how cartilage.
But somebody wants to buttress what you're saying. Mrs. Joyce says, so correct, sir. I finished at UCH and migrated to USA. I did not have to do any other classes. I just sat for my professional exam, passed, got my license, and start work. God bless UCH education.
Of course. I had the fellowship of the Royal. I graduated in 73. I was a fellow of the college by 1977. Very few people. Well, you couldn't do it faster anyway, because it's 4 years. You have to have 4 years before you could get fellowship. And I got the fellowship on the dot. In June 1977, I got the fellowship of Edinburgh College. I qualified in Ibadan in 73. 4 years. You couldn't do it any faster. And it's all come from training in Ibadan. I didn't train anywhere else. You could walk into almost anything. Even though when I was at Ibadan, it wasn't as if I was getting prize or I was top of the class. No, I was in the bottom half of the class at Ibadan. And yet, when I got to the UK, everything was easy. Even though when I was at Ibadan, I was in the bottom half of the class. I was still able to come to the UK and become a fellow of the Royal College of Edinburgh within 4 years. So the teaching, the atmosphere, the everything was fantastic at Ibadan. You've muted yourself. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Who are those that doesn't want the progress, the benefit of this Yoruba state coming back into the Yoruba land, as against being in a Nigeria that has deprived millions of Yoruba people some of this fantastic benefit that you've been talking about?
As I said, partly you need leadership. Partly our problem is that I don't understand the kind of leadership that we have. And sometimes you need to actually sit close to them to I give you an example. When I was at UI, I was in the student consultative. It was called the University Consultative Committee, of which I was a member. It was the vice chancellor was the chairman of that committee, and it had to do with the development of the place and so on and so forth. When we had a demonstration, and my friend Kula Adepeju was shot and killed by the police. Instead of this is where you begin to see how weak our leadership is. Instead of the vice chancellor, who was Professor Lambo at the time, that we all worshipped, instead of him standing up and saying, "This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. You shouldn't do this on my campus," he wilted. He wilted. And we had an inquiry, or there was an inquiry, and I always remember when Gani Faweyemi was a young lawyer who had just arrived back in Nigeria then. He took our case pro bono. And I remember him cross-examining Professor Lambo and reducing him to jelly. It was just so sad to watch this great man just completely reduced to nothing, because he was defending the indefensible. If Lambo had stood up then to say it is not acceptable for policemen to come onto the university campus to shoot a student dead, we will not even have NSAS of 2020.
I see where you're coming from.
Wilted. He should have stood that no, this is not acceptable. You should not come to the campus to kill students. That is what I mean by the kind of Yoruba leadership that we have. Very wishy-washy.
The weakest link, like you said.
Very wishy-washy, very yellow-bellied. Very weak people.
So, if I after going through these benefits that you've talked about, the question in the minds of millions of people that are watching us from around the world. Again, this is Star Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. And with me featuring tonight is Bashegun, Dr. OLUSOLA ONI, the coordinator of ILANAUK UK. We've talked a bit about the benefit of the Yoruba state. What impact, from your own chapter in UK? I know you're doing a lot. I've been following some of your activities. As one of the, the coordinator of this powerful, movement in the United Kingdom. What should we actually be expecting? Because I know that there is the worldwide, but we also have chapter that can sometimes do more. Not that they are competing with those at home, but what are your own ways of moving the chapter forward in terms of engagement, real engagement, in terms of diplomatic conversation, in terms of documentaries, culture, language? I know there's a lot that your groups are doing, but for the benefit of those that are watching us tonight, and how they could probably be a member, because you can sit behind the fence and complain. If you're not part of it, you are also not doing a lot as well. So let me come back to you on what is ILANAUK UK chapter doing, and what are you planning to do more?
Let's start from culture. Every Sunday we have a Yoruba class, so that anybody can attend the Yoruba class. It's on Zoom. It's free if you are a member of ILANAUK UK, and membership only costs £5. You pay £5 and you are able to attend the Yoruba classes every Sunday. And it is interesting that those of Yoruba descent who have never been to Nigeria, who are born here, who have never been to Nigeria, they are now, some of them now speak Yoruba by attending these classes. When we started, our vision was that there are 120,000 Yoruba people in London, for example. I mean, there's more in the UK. Our idea was that how do we mobilize that number? How do we mobilize that large number to be a significant political force in the UK. How do we support somebody like Kemi, for example, who stood in election to be Prime Minister of the UK? Because 120,000 people, that's 2 parliamentary seats you are looking at. It's a hell of a lot of people. And yet we have no cohesion, we have no... the Jews are the same number as we are, and yet they have something like 20 MPs. We've got 3, I think. Because they are mobilized. So one of the things that we have been trying to do in ILANAUK UK is to mobilize our people. So we are doing it through the language, and we are trying to get involved in the carnival coming up in shortly, where we are going to display egungun. You know, the people, so that people who go to carnival and they see how the West Indians do it, they can see the origin. You know, we'll have our own music, music there. We'll have our egungun there, so that for the first time they will see the origin of carnival. We are planning to have an Ayo competition. I don't know if your non-Yoruba audience know anything about Ayo. Ayo is a board game with 12. I don't know whether you call it pits or where you. It's a game which you play with seeds. It's a game that my grandmother taught me when I was a child, and part of what that Ayo game teaches you is how to add and subtract things.
The engineers are working. They will bring the picture for the benefit of those that are watching us that probably will not understand what that means. You will get a picture coming up in just about a few minutes. Go ahead, Bashi.
We want to make that another universal game for people to play. So the idea is that we are going to start a competition and then develop it from there to invite other people from other cultures, because it's easy to learn. I am teaching my grandchildren at the minute. It is something that is it. That is it.
That is it right there for those that are probably not understanding what that means. That is thank you so much to the engineer. Continue, Bashiru.
So that's another line of things that we are doing. Now, remember I was telling you about vision. That is, you have a goal and you have a vision. Our vision in ILANAUK UK, people may not agree with it. That's not the problem. Our vision is that we can dissolve Nigeria through the courts. We can use legal means to extricate Yoruba land from Nigeria. That was why we got involved in the court case to stop Osun and Ekiti elections, which unfortunately hasn't worked. Although, if we had our way, which we don't, we will take the federal government to court again on the 2023 election.
Okay.
You know, we haven't wrecked the Osun and Ekiti court case. The logical thing to do for an organization is to then go to the federal court to try and stop the 2023 elections. And we've got 6 months to do it. So that's one thing, one of the things we are thinking about. We're also thinking about challenging the 1914 amalgamation of Nigeria. And on that, I have now written 2 letters to the Prime Minister. Unfortunately, the idea was I was going to ask for a response before the end of the month, but he's no longer Prime Minister, so I'm not quite sure where that goes now. What we have done is what is called letter before action. In the United Kingdom, if you want a judicial review of a decision, the lawfulness of a decision, you write to the decision maker. You say, I want to ask for judicial review. What do you want to say about it? And you can ask them for documents and so on. I have done that already.
Okay.
We have written to the Prime Minister 2 letters, in fact, one about the 1914 amalgamation, which we say is unlawful, and the other one is the formation of the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. We say that is unlawful as well. So those are the 2 things. Now, the next step that we are taking now is for me to go and discuss with the courts whether they will allow us to bring the case. Because again, in this country, that's the way it's done. You write a letter before action, and then you go to the courts to discuss with the courts whether they have jurisdiction before you start any action at all. So those are the things that we are doing at the present time.
Okay. So if anybody wants to, we have a lot of, like you said, not just in London, across, England, Wales, outside, generally United Kingdom. If people wants to be part of these, the chapter ILANAUK UK, and they're watching right now, how do they become a member, and who do they contact, and how do they get in touch? Okay.
We have a website, www.ilanauk.org.org, ILANAUK.org. And the idea of asking you to go to the website is that you can see what we're about. So before you join, you can see what we're about. And let me tell the young people something. People like me are too old to be fighting this battle for you. This is your chance to fight the battle yourself. You join an organization and you take it over. Just like Kenneth is only 42 years old.
So you don't sit behind the fence and just complain.
Exactly. Because until you join and kick people like me out, we will still be talking about years and years gone by. You want to look to the future. You want to look to the future. And that is why you need to join an organization like ILANAUK UK, where you can have a voice. You can tell us what you want to done. This is not just a matter of the coordinator saying this is what he wants done. It is you. It is you that decides what needs to be done.
Well, somebody just, before you go further, somebody just confirmed that she worked at the Odutola Tire. Oluremi Ogabi, Kilanku says, I work at Odutola Tire Factory in Okeado. When I finished my secondary school, it was owned by Jimo Odutola.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I don't know her, but yes, the factory was there. I mean, there were a lot of things in Ibadan, when I was growing up. I mean, we had canning factories, we had the tire factory. In fact, for young people as well. I mean, Ibadan was great when I was a fantastic place. We had Sunday Jump. We had a disco place behind St. Teresa's College where you went on Saturdays. On Sundays, we had Sunday Jump at the Paradise Club where Eddie Okonta will be playing any new number any new song, he will play to us young people. And if we were dancing and enjoying it, he knew that he had #1 record. But Ibadan was absolutely fantastic when I was a child. You had cinemas to go to. I mean, unbelievable life. Absolutely fantastic. You go to Ibadan now, the place is dead. Completely dead. There's nothing for young people to do. And what needs to be done is that young people here need to take over. You need to take over all these organizations and get rid of old facts like me. What can I do? I don't want to be prime minister of anything. I don't want to be in charge of anything. All I'm interested in, go back to Yoruba nation, eat pounded yam, eat bush meat, drink palm oil, and tell stories or write my books. That's all. I don't want to. I want you guys to take over. Come and join us. There are many things to be done. You give us ideas. You tell us what is it that you want, and we will try and help you to do it. That is the vision that we have. That's the vision that we have. That you come and join us, and you tell us what you want to do, what you want your life to be like, what you want your future to be like. And then our job is to facilitate. The job of old people like me is as facilitator. And that is what I do even as a retired orthopedic surgeon in my profession. I read as on the editorial board of this, that, or the other, I read the research that young people are doing. I give them advice on which way to go, whether this is good, this is bad, this is what you should do, and so on and so forth. That is what you do when you get to my age. I don't want to be operating on people anymore. I don't want to see patients anymore. But I want to pass my knowledge to younger people. I want to show them how they can do things. But if people don't get up to do it, it means we still have to be doing it. No, it's your chance. Get on with it.
Well, thank you so much. So far, it is just about 15 minutes before 8. I can assure us that at about 8 o'clock, we will try to summarize some of what we've discussed in Yoruba for the benefit of our audience that are also Yorubas as well. But for now, we still have about 15 more minutes as we continue to look into the benefit. Tonight, I have with me the one and only Bashegun, Dr. OLUSOLA ONI, the coordinator of ILANAUK UK, and we are looking at the benefit of the Yoruba state. Let me come back to you, Dr. Oni. In terms of the self-determination, the Yoruba movement, from what you are looking at as someone involved, where do you think we are at the moment, and how far have we gone, and what more can still be done?
That is a very, very difficult question, partly because there are so many organizations involved that you really don't know what this is doing or what that is doing. Although I am one of those who favors multiple approaches.
Multiple approaches.
Yes. But when the Yorubas say Onokan Woja, they do not mean parallel lines. What they mean is like a funnel. You know what a funnel is? I don't know what it is. A funnel. If you put anything in the funnel, it passes through the same hole to go to wherever it is. That is what the Yorubas conceptualize as Onokan Woja. They don't mean everybody just doing whatever it is they like. What they want, or what the Yorubas conceptualize as Onokan Woja, is like a funnel that you input to different parts of the funnel, but it is heading in the same direction. And that is what we should be doing. People talk about unity and so that's not the point. People, when Yorubas talk about unity, that's another thing where, when you are translating Yoruba into English, it's difficult. What people mean by unity is that they need leadership. They need somebody to say, or two people to say, or whatever, this is where we are going. This is how we are going to get there. That's what they want. They don't want people talking about the same old story over and over again. We marched with Awolowo in the 50s. Nobody is interested. What people want is, this is the goal. How do we get there? This is B, where we are going. How do we get from A to B? What vehicle do we use? What mechanism do we use to get there? We, ILANAUK UK, believe that we can do it by mobilizing our people, which is part of the things we are doing now, mobilizing our people so that they know what the benefits of Yoruba land is to them, so that they can come with us, so that when we say we are going to court, we get the support. We don't go to court and just be on our own, because the Europeans, the Americans, only understand numbers.
Numbers.
In the contest for the Tory leadership, they're not interested in how really that Kemi was very good and so on. No, numbers. They count numbers, and that is what we have to do. We have to mobilize our people, as many of our people as possible, to join us, as many as possible. And then we can march to Downing Street. I can say there are 1,000 Yoruba people behind me. There are 10,000 Yoruba people behind me. This is what we want. This is what we want in London. This is what we want in Manchester. This is what we want all over the country. Because I have this number behind me. The army behind me. Not a handful of us talking Oyibo every day. It's not getting anywhere. The more we are, the more powerful we are. And it is important that our young people get involved. You don't have to be the leader, but you can be a good foot soldier. You can be the ideas people. When I was still working, I had a research group with young people. I had ideas. They did whatever it is needed to be done. They changed the method. They did this, that, and the other. But I was like the guy who gave guidance. That's what we need to be. That's what people like me want to do. I don't want to be on the field anymore. I want you guys to come and take over, do the job, get this thing done. It is for your future. I mean, people like I am already in what I call in the departure lounge. You know, although I'm not sitting on the ejector seats yet, but I'm in the departure lounge. How long are you going to rely on people in the departure lounge to be doing these things for you? This is your time. This is your job now. Join us.
Well, thank you so much, Bashegun, as we continue to review, some of these very powerful benefits of a Yoruba state. Let me now come back again to you. We have, those at home that are probably looking at the Yoruba nation. They understand there's a problem in Nigeria. They understand that there is a need, for Nigeria to break. But they are concerned that it seems that when we eventually get to a Yoruba nation, there will be disunity among us. What are you going to say to that?
It is always the future. When you are first dipping your toe into the water, it's always difficult because you are thinking, is the current too much for me? Am I going to encounter a shark or whatever? But that shouldn't stop you dipping your toe in the water, because you have no idea what the future is. This is why I always ask the question, what benefits does Nigeria give you that Yoruba land will not give you? That's really the question. The idea that you are going to fight each other, so what? I mean, we are not robots. We are not going to be speaking with one voice. When the time comes, we will fight amongst ourselves, but we'll be speaking the same language and resolving our problems in the same language as our forefathers used to do. One of the things that if you invite me back on your program, I will talk about what the Yoruba constitutional law was like before. Because the way that the Yorubas ran the Yoruba Empire was such that there could not be fight between them until the Europeans came. Until the Europeans came, they didn't. It was what? Can you still hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Yes.
It was.
Sorry,
it was.
I can't do that in that app.
Oh dear.
Okay, it looks like something probably played at the background, but we can still hear you loud and clear. This is Star Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London, and we still have my guest with me, Dr. OLUSOLA ONI, the coordinator of ILANAUK UK. We'll come back to you again.
Yes, I think what has happened is, I don't know, Siri or whatever, I think must have got tired of me talking and decided
to help you as well.
Yes. You see, when people talk about what's going to happen, I always refer them to 1952 to 1959, when we had self-government in Yoruba land. People argue and fight when there is no vision, when there is no goal, when you don't know where you are going. And that happens in various Yoruba organizations as we speak, because they don't know where they're going. Everybody's fighting everybody because there's no goal. If you have a goal where you're all matching, this is the battle we are going, this is the war we are going to fight, it is different. Because you have no time to fight with each other, because that's where you are going. You're all matching in that direction. You haven't got time to be fighting each other. When we have our own country and we stop following the British or the European and the American system of government, of parliamentary democracy, presidential system, when we go back to the constitutional Oba system, where every conurbation makes its own decision about its own future, its education, its health, its everything, it's localized. When you don't have political parties, things are different. We need to move away from the European system of doing things because it is corrupt. Europe is corrupt. America is corrupt. And the only way they are able to silence their poor is because even if you don't get a job, they give you money to survive. That's how they keep people quiet. If you don't get a job, you are still able to buy television, buy your car,
living life to a minimum.
Exactly. That's how they are not. The peasants are not revolting because the rich people, the 5% rich people, give you crumbs to eat. We don't want that in Yoruba land. Yoruba land was a uniform development throughout, and that's what we want. So when I talk to people about the constitution of that we should have in Yoruba land, and they start talking about presidential system, they're going to have Lagos state, this state, that state.
So what you're actually saying, some people prefer the bread than to the key to their freedom.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, what I am saying is that we need to go back to what our forefathers did. Some people are saying, monarchy system is out of date. They still do it in England. The same thing that you are saying is out of date, it is still practiced here. It is practiced in several countries, even in Japan. They still have an emperor. So when people tell us, it's old-fashioned, it's old-fashioned because you are not thinking. You are not thinking. When you understand the way, when people explain, this is I'm quite happy, as I said, to come back on your program.
But we will definitely bring you back so that we can have a proper conversation on that, our own system of government, using the constitutional order. We will definitely bring you back, but I'll let you to continue.
Yes, So when people say that there's going to be fight amongst us and this, that, it depends on how the Yoruba nation or the Yoruba state is organized. If you organize it the way that things are done here, or parliamentary system, then you have political parties. Political parties are nothing short of beauty pageants. You are given the choice of 2 evils, or 3 evils, or 4 evils. And it's the same. The system of having political party is inherently corrupt. It's by itself inherently corrupt because political parties have nothing to do with the people. Politicians owe allegiance not to the people, but to their political parties. What we want is for politicians to owe allegiance to the people. If politics is not a profession, if politics is not where you give up your job as a lawyer to go and earn more money as a politician, if you can't do that, your behavior will be different. If you still have to earn your daily bread in your own profession and your part in governance is part-time, your behavior will be different. I used to, where I live, I was an elected member of the parish council. They don't pay you. They didn't pay us anything. And yet we made decisions. You aren't paid anything, and you are elected by the local people. So during election, you go around the place and say, "I want to be a councillor," and you chat with people. I was not in any political party. I was an independent, and I sat for 4 years. It was an eye opener. How you can make decisions, how you can, make life better for your fellow man without being paid a penny. People at the higher level than us, what do they give them? They only pay them allowances. You get allowance for going to, your taxi money or whatever.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
so there's no incentive to be corrupt because there's nothing to corrupt you. And that's what we have to do. When we have our government, we have to make sure that the government is incorruptible. And you will always be corrupt if you have a political system with political parties. You will always be corrupt. I mean, look at Nigeria. To stand for election as president, you have to pay 20 million naira. Can you imagine 25, 26, 30 of them? Imagine how much money, and yet your people can't eat.
People are struggling on a daily basis.
It's unbelievable.
Okay, just to help those that are watching us from around the globe this evening, especially our listeners back in the Yoruba land, as we want to put it that way. Let's just give it maybe 10-minute summary in Yoruba, if we can. If not, maybe a little bit shorter than that. Just a bit of what we've said so far, in the last 2 hours, which we started about 6 p.m. UK time. The benefit of a Yoruba state. Try. I understand. I know it might be difficult, but let's just give it a bit of try. Ká lè fi gbìyànjú fún àǹfààní àwọn èèyàn wa tó ń wò wá ní gbogbo gbèríko, nítorí pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ẹ̀rù ń bà wọ́n pé tí a bá dá dúró ìyà máa jẹ ìran ọmọ Yorùbá. Ìdí tí wọ́n ṣe fẹ́ tẹ̀lé ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá nation, Yorùbá state, Oduduwa republic tá à ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ là wá lóye bàbá wa.
Okay. Ẹ má bínú pé tí n bá fi òyìnbó díẹ̀ sí.
Ẹ bá ń fi sí díẹ̀ sí.
Nǹkan tá à ń sọ̀rọ̀ ni pé kí ni àǹfààní fún wa láti jẹ́ pé àwa Yorùbá a ní òmìnira? Kí láǹfààní ẹ̀? Bí mo ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni pé kò sí àǹfààní tí Nàìjíríà fún wa tí Yorùbá nation ò lè fún wa, tí Oduduwa republic ò lè fún wa. Kò sí àǹfààní kankan kọ́bọ̀ tí wọ́n fún wa tí àwa Yorùbá ò lè fúnra wa. Ìkíní ni pé àwa Yorùbá à ṣe nǹkan bí Yorùbá ṣe ń ṣe nǹkan. A ní máa wò pé ṣé àwọn Fúlàní máa gbà ní o, ṣé àwọn Ìgbò máa gbà ní o, ṣé Tàmídù máa gbà ní o, ṣé lágbájá máa à ṣe nǹkan bí àwa Yorùbá ṣe máa ń ṣe nǹkan. Àwa ní àṣà tiwa ní Yorùbá, alédè wa ní Yorùbá, alófin wa ní Yorùbá, a ní egbògi wa ní Yorùbá. Gbogbo nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn á jẹ́ fún àǹfààní tiwa. Àwa ọmọlúàbí làwa, à hùwà ọmọlúàbí. So ìkíní nìyẹn pé à ṣe nǹkan bí àwọn Yorùbá ṣe ń ṣe, àwọn bàbá wa ṣe ń ṣe. Ìkejì ni pé à tún ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ṣe. Gbogbo ìyà tó ń jẹ wá lénìí kò máa jẹ wá tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ nígbà táwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ wà ńbẹ̀ ní 1950s. Even gbà tẹ́mi wà tí mò ń gbé village, ìlú kékeré, I don't know what you call village tí mò ń gbé ìlú kékeré láyé àtijọ́. Kò sí àǹfààní tá à ní. Kò sí àǹfààní tá à ní. Láyé ìgbà yẹn àwọn ìlú tí ò lómi wọ́n á gbómi wá. Àwọn tí ò lówó rédíò wọ́n gbé rediffusion wá síbẹ̀. Rediffusion so that tán bá ti ń sọ nǹkan níbàdàn nípa ìgbà àwo báyìí àwa ń gbọ́ torí pé rediffusion wà ńlẹ̀. So ẹni tí ò ní rédíò nílé ẹ̀ oníbi tí a ti lè máa lọ sí. In fact, my own father donated our property for the rediffusion station in my hometown. So gbogbo yẹn ni àǹfààní tí a máa ní tá bá ní Yorùbá. Ṣé rí owó tí gbogbo Nàìjíríà ná lénìí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ló ti ń wá. Gbogbo owó tí Nàìjíríà ná lénìí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ló ti ń wá. Tá bá ní Yorùbá nation tiwa, tá nílẹ̀ tiwa, ṣe bí owó wa ní ilẹ̀ wa láti máa náwó yẹn. Ó ti 100 ọdún láti ń fi owó wa gbọ́ gbogbo Nàìjíríà. 100 ọdún. Railway tí àwọn òyìnbó kọ́ àwa la sanwó ẹ̀. Kò sí nǹkan kan tí wọ́n ṣe ní Nàìjíríà tí kì í ṣe pé àwa Yorùbá la sanwó ẹ̀. Nígbà tá a bá ní òmìnira tiwa ṣé bówó wa ní àná láàrin ara wa. Ìkẹta ni pé a tún ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ṣe bó ṣe wù wá. nǹkan tó bá wù wá la máa tá a bá fẹ́ pé a máa kọ́ hospital àwa la ní àkọ́ hospital tá a bá lé school la fẹ́ kọ́ àwa la ní àwa la kọ́ tá a bá ní race track la fẹ́ kọ́ káwọn Formula 1 máa wá wa mọ́tò ń bẹ̀ tiwa ni a dẹ̀ ní nǹkan tá gbogbo nǹkan tá a fi lè ṣe gbogbo yẹn ó wà lọ́wọ́ wa ṣé mo pé gbogbo nǹkan tí àwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ ṣe free education ni o tẹ́lẹ̀ WNTV WNBS ni o Cocoa House ni o Liberty Stadium ni o gbogbo nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣé mo pé owó kòkó náà mà ṣe owó àgbẹ̀ ni wọ́n lò ṣé àwọn àgbẹ̀ wa wọ́n ríṣẹ́ ṣe báyìí mọ́ nígbà tá a bá nílẹ̀ tiwa tá a lómìnira tiwa àwa fúnra wa la máa owó àgbẹ̀ wa la fi máa tọ́ra wa la fi máa túnlẹ̀ wa ṣe gbogbo kí náà pè mineral wúrà gbogbo nǹkan wúrà nǹkan kan bẹ́ẹ̀ ó wà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá tó yẹ pé àwọn Fúlàní ò jẹ́ ká rí nílẹ̀ wa ní gbogbo ẹ̀ wà bá a ṣe máa ṣe iṣẹ́ mọ̀ pé electricity iná tí àríná ṣe tí gbogbo yín ra generator káàkiri nígbà tá a bá nílẹ̀ Yorùbá tiwa ní need láti ra generator mọ́ nítorí pé ṣé wọn pé àwọn òyìnbó ti tẹ́ bá rántí pé nígbà tán máa ń gun kẹ̀kẹ́ láyé àtijọ́ ṣé wọn pé iná wọn kì í lo bátìrì fún ná kíní tán pè ní dynamo ó wà níbi ẹ̀gbẹ́ táyà báyìí tẹ́ bá ti ń gun kẹ̀kẹ́ táyà máa yí kíní yẹn báyìí á máa tanná bí àwọn òyìnbó ṣe ń ṣe electricity nìyẹn o wọ́n ń pè ní wind turbine the same idea if you ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ bá dàgbà ẹ ti mọ nǹkan tí mò ń sọ yìí pé dynamo tẹ́ ẹ bá fẹ́ tanná kẹ̀kẹ́ lálẹ́ tẹ́ bá ń gun kẹ̀kẹ́ lóru tẹ́ bá fẹ́ tanná ẹ̀ kíní yẹn báyìí ẹ̀gbẹ́ ibi táyà ló wà tẹ́ bá ti ń ṣe táyà báyìí lá máa yí kíní yẹn báyìí ní ìlú yìí atẹ́gùn náà fi ń ṣe kíní yẹn atẹ́gùn bíi sẹ́wọ̀n bíi fáànù ilé ní pé fáànù olórúurú tó ń lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ bí fáànù yẹn ṣe wà níta nìyẹn tí atẹ́gùn máa gbé káàkiri báyìí tá máa gbé káàkiri báyìí tó máa generate electricity bí àwọn ṣe ń tanná nìyẹn báwa náà ṣe máa tanná nìyẹn wọ́n tẹ̀ tí pé kinní kan ní solar panel tí oòrùn tó máa ràn sí tó máa ṣe electricity àwa náà nìyẹn lé nǹkan tó pọ̀ ṣe rí àǹfààní tí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá máa jẹ́ fún wa kì í ṣe nǹkan kékeré o kì í ṣe nǹkan kékeré o Nàìjíríà ló bà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá jẹ́ Nàìjíríà ló bà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá jẹ́ ṣé mo pé àwa la ní ilé ìkọ̀wé ni àwa la ní ìkọ̀wé ilé gíga àwa la ní hospital tó dáa àwa la ní gbogbo ẹ̀ kán tó bà gbogbo kán tó fọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀ dànù ńgbà tá a bá ní òmìnira àwa la máa rán ọmọ wa lọ sí ilé ẹ̀kọ́ kò sí pé ẹnìkankan kò ní mọ̀wé wọ́n á gbà sílé wọ́n á gbà dídán ayé àtijọ́ ká ti ní gbogbo àwọn àǹfààní tá a ní nígbà tí àwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ ìjọba gbogbo ẹ̀ la máa ní gbogbo ẹ̀ padà. So briefly that's really all I want to say.
ṣé gan ni bàbá wa fún àǹfààní tí ẹ bá wa fi sọ ní èdè abínibí wa. Now let's come back again at 7 minutes past. We're just about 20 minutes away before the end of this evening broadcast from Star Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. Quite a lot of people are saying thank you so much to you. As also there's a lot of comments that are coming through. We'd like to appreciate everyone that have joined us. Let us now also come back to you, Dr. Oni. What advice can you give to everyone that is out there doing different things, to promote, to engage a very peaceful exit out of Nigeria, looking at the way things have been in the last 2 years? What advice will you give so that we can continue to move the forward? I love the idea that you said we need the numbers, and I think when we look at some of the numbers, especially Sri Lanka latest invasion of their president's house after the same economic crisis, without the numbers, we cannot really move Yoruba Nation forward. I mean, we can sit down online and get those numbers, but if we don't see the numbers materializing physically on the ground, I mean, yes, there's a lot of broadcasting that is happening on a daily basis across the globe, with thousands of people that are watching. Do we have those numbers on the ground? I'm not sure whether we do. But if we do, we want to start seeing those numbers. When we call for a rally, we want people to come down for the rally. We want more engagement. Your own advice to different organizations, individuals, groups of people, as a father, as someone that believes in this vision of a Yoruba state, what advice are you going to give us today?
Remember I am a great believer in Onokowoja. But remember how I described it, that it is like a funnel. You input to go to the same place, and that is where we are getting things from. Remember what I said? We all have a goal of self-determination, but that is a goal. How do we go from A to B? As an example, when we had the opportunity of starting the court case, we invited different people to different organizations to come and join with us, because we said this is a public interest case. It is not ILANAUK's case alone. It is the case of every Yoruba. It's a public interest case. Only one organization, the Yoruba Diaspora, the Yoruba Diaspora Mega Rally USA. They were the only ones who supported us. They gave us £2,000, £2,500 towards the court case. Now, that is something that we went out to ask people to join us, to say this is a public interest case, and those are the sort of things that we need to know. That people who are having ideas, like those who say 5 million people have signed the petition, they should now be asking, what should we do with that loads of signatures? Rather than them thinking alone what they can do with it, they should leave it open and say to everybody, look, we've got 5 million signatures. What can we do with it? For example, my view is that 5 million signatures is the same as a referendum. You don't need a referendum anymore. You now have to decide, what are you going to do with it? And the way to know what to do with it is not to keep it to yourself, but to ask other people to come and give you ideas on what to do with it. And that's why when we were going to court, I appeared on numerous programs to ask people to join us. And unfortunately, only one organization joined. But if we hadn't gone out, nobody is going to join us. And that's what organizations have to do. Now, you might get discouraged because many people don't join you. But I'm not by nature somebody who gets discouraged by anything. I will still go out there and fight for what I think is right. I mean, we are getting ready for the 1914 case. When we get to a stage where we have to engage a lawyer, I will be on every program possible, selling it and asking people to join us. And that's what I mean by Onokowoja, but you have a funnel where everybody is inputting into the same direction. That's the advice I would give. And really, the time has come, I think, when each organization need to really have this discussion amongst themselves, that the goal is self-determination. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? And that is a very important discussion that each organization needs to have within itself. Most organizations spend so much time on the organization itself, trying to get it right. This is what we want as president, constitution, Igbawo. That is all well and good, but you need a vision. How are we going to get to where we're going? For example, you could say, some of us are pacifists, but other people are not pacifists. You can say, okay, we want to fight. But then you've got to decide how you going to get the fight, how you going to get the guns, how you going to mobilize people, and so on and so forth. That is what you need to start thinking about. We've done enough talking. We have done enough talking. What is required now is action. For example, when people are saying, don't vote, don't vote, don't vote, I said, how can you ask people not to vote when you yourself, you are not doing anything? That's how the importance of the court case, that people knew that we are not just asking them not to vote, we are also saying we are there with you. And that is what organizations need to do now. They need to have a conversation within themselves that what is the goal? What the goal is self-determination. How are we going to get there? And then if you know people who are in step with you, who have the same idea, for example, if people are interested in court case, you say, okay, ILANAUK UK is interested in court case, we are interested in court case, let us join up and do this together. That's what you want to do. In my view, it is still possible to get a Yoruba nation before the end of this year.
Okay.
It is still possible. But we have to do what I'm talking about, that you say, this is the goal, this is the vision of how to get there. Who are those who have the same vision as us? And let us collaborate. You don't have to fuse together, you don't have to be the same. You say, let us collaborate. Let us remember the funnel.
Arrow.
Go on.
Go ahead, Bashegun. I was just translating the funnel with arrow. You know, the funnel that you talked about.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a picture that I think we should all have in our mind. Let us forget this idea of unity, that everybody is fusing together. No. Let us just imagine that we are all inputting into the same funnel. And what you then do is you cooperate. So those who have done the petition with the 5 million people, they need to look for others who can help them to progress that. You know, that is a referendum. That is what I mean, that already a referendum has been done. 5 million people have signed something. That is a referendum. We have the answer. The question now is that how do you translate from a referendum to freedom? That is what will be looked at. How do you translate from referendum to freedom? Some people think that, United Nations, United Nations is not going to do anything. It's a useless organization, totally hopeless. We have to start thinking, how are we going to get Oduduwa Republic or Yoruba state without the UN? That's what we start doing. I mean, for example, we have a seat at the UNPO. I don't think anybody is there representing us at all. That's the sort of thing, you know, there's another UN organization. A lot of the time they are talking about Israel all the time. The time has come for us to inject ourselves into that sort of place, to say, don't talk about Israel alone, talk about Yoruba state. Those are the sort of places where you get friends. They're not going to get friends in the UN. And again, the political organization that I was talking about, we need to start thinking about that. How are we as Yorubas in London going to organize ourselves so that the MPs are afraid of us? These are the things that internally organizations have to be debating. We spend so much time in organizing the organization. It's worthless. That's just, it's just meaningless. You're organizing the organization when your goal is there, when you should be concentrating on your goal. How are we going to get from A to B? Should be your focus, not elaborate constitution. You have an executive of 30 people who have no job, nothing to do. The job that could be done by half a dozen people, you get 30 people on your. I mean, that's the problem that we have. is that we are too focused on the organization and not focused on the goal. Some people might say mega rally is the way to do it. Then do it every month, not just in a while. Then you say we do it every month. That sort of thing. I mean, I used to go and attend the group that always there at Downing Street.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I used to go there, and you don't find a lot of people there. A lot of us are not there. It's just a small group, the same people, poor people, just there, week in, week out, day in, day out, struggling, and nobody, that's the sort of thing we need to do. If you believe in mega rally, then it's got to be done every month, not just once in a while. You got to organize it every month so that the people of the United Kingdom, they know that you want your independence and you want it now. Not once in a while. We did June 12th. That's it, and then the next time is another June 12th. No. So we need to search out people who have the same sort of idea of how to get to where we are going, and then we need to collaborate. Unity is not what we are looking for. Collaboration is what we are looking for.
Thank you so much, Bashegun, for these well-spent time with us on Naija Voices, and I can assure our listeners that we will bring you back so that we can then come back and discuss, our own system of government, constitution, during the next, program that we would have with you before, probably maybe end of this month, first week August. I will definitely be inviting you back again. To all your chapter here in UK is an opportunity to maybe want to say one or two things. I know there's a lot of them that are watching as well. I will give you, opportunity to extend greetings to them, especially in this very hot weather here in the United Kingdom.
Yes. What do they say again? Not Pajawiri, I can't remember. Taku. Yes, I have been very lucky to have people in ILANAUK. I will be blunt. Without them, I would have walked away. Because these are people who really have their soul on Yoruba nation. It is in their soul, in their blood, in their heart, their brain, in their this every single day. I get a call, I get a text or something, all about how to get Yoruba nation. And I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of what you are doing. I'm proud of the way that you're going about it. We've had challenges, and we've overcome all those challenges. And every time we are always looking forward to what else we can do to make this self-determination a reality. I thank you all for the opportunity you've given me to be your coordinator, and not just that, the support that you've given me is so. And that's why I will never walk away from you. Never. Thank you very much.
Wow. Well, thank you so much to Dr. Olusegun, Dr. Bashegun OLUSOLA Oni, the coordinator of ILANAUK, and I'm going to let you go and say thank you once again for being part of us this evening. Once again, as we will continue in just about 8 minutes, we will also be bringing the program to an end. We will let Doctor take a bow so that he can go and have something very something warm, probably not too cold. But again, the weather is so warm out there. So thank you so much for being part of this with us this evening. Before we now start winding down, and just an advice to those of us that are listening to us or watching us from different parts of the globe, we all have a different role to play. We are just playing our own role from the Star Radio UK, and those that are also, involved in different roles when it comes to, I'll say to the back end, say if you can just remove Bashegun so that we can allow him to go. So while we continue in just about 7 minutes before the end of the program, Star Radio UK will be bringing more different guests in the next couple of weeks. We've got them lined up. We have somebody else that will be coming up with us next week, Wednesday, that will be discussing something different. But if you also want to be part of it, you can also send an email to me at my email address, musakalam@gmail.com. Maybe you have somebody you want us to feature on this program. Please do let me know, and we will try our best if we can get through to them. I do know there's a lot of people that want Yoruba Nation, but Yoruba Nation is not something that you want on the social media. We all have to be out there to engage. We all have to be out there to be active. We also have to be part of one organization or the other, as long as the organization is working towards the actualization of a Yoruba Nation. We need the numbers, as Bashegun has said already. Without the numbers, we will continue to struggle. But the quicker we can get the number, the better for each and every one of us. And for everyone that have joined again tonight, I would say, okay, somebody said we should try and bring Showore on. I will try my best, to contact him and see if we can line it up quickly as well. We're still trying to bring, Mr. Ajala as well. We hope we can get through to him as well. And so many other individuals that would like to feature on this program. I'm not sure, how quick we can get them in. But one thing is, you can come up, you can disconnect Bashegun from your side. It will adjust itself. Thank you so much for being part of the program this evening. So in the next 5 minutes, I would also be going back again to the waterway bill. The waterway bill, as we know, is something that the government wants to use on us, and we must not allow that to happen. So we must do everything to make sure that the waterway bill is not something that we would give away. We can't afford to give away what belongs to us. So that means every single one of us has a responsibility to do the needful, speak to international community and tell them that the Yorubas are not giving away their waterway bill. So again, we are here doing our own best. What are you doing as well? Ìgbésẹ̀ tó lúkàlùkù bá máa gbé, ó ṣe kókó pé ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gbé nísìn. And kíkọ fún wa ní ọjọ́ mélòó ló kù kí 2023 kó tó di pé ó máa dé wá bá wa pẹ̀lú àlàáfíà fún gbogbo àwa tí à ń fẹ́ kí a kúrò nínú Nàìjíríà. Ó kù 205 days, 4 hours, 33 minutes, and the second goes down. Ó kù 205 days. So that means every day tí a bá gbìyànjú tó pọ̀ rẹpẹtẹ, we are losing that day entirely. Today is Wednesday, 20th of July, 2022. This time last year, it was chaos after Chief Sunday Adeyemo Igboho Osha was stopped in Benin Republic on his way to Germany with his wife, and that created a lot of what we can call setback to so many Yoruba people across the globe. Chief Sunday Igboho is out now. Yes, he's in Benin Republic, but what are you doing? Don't wait for Chief Sunday Igboho alone. Don't wait for Professor Banji Akintoye. Don't wait for Chief Mrs. Modupe Onitiri Abiola alone. Every one of us must put all the effort, whether you are in Australia, whether you are in Japan, whether you are in United Arab Emirates, whether you are in Oman, whether you are in Egypt, whether you are in Kenya, South Africa, Turkey, Cyprus, Thailand, Malaysia, United States of America, Canada, or whether you are in Yoruba land. Ìgbésẹ̀ tó lúkàlùkù máa gbé, ẹ jẹ́ ká tètè bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gbé nísìn kí a lè actualize Yoruba Nation yẹn before 2023. We all gonna play different role, and that means we are playing that role as well. The mega rally has not yet been announced. I know there's a flyer out there that was a bit confusing to the mega rally. That is not the mega rally. That is just a state rally that was put together by some group of people, but I don't know why they've actually went on to put it as a mega rally. The mega rally will only be announced by Professor Banji Akintoye himself, and when that time comes, I will be announcing that, so as the other media as well. And on that note, I will go back again and leave you with this intro of a waterway bill that we must reject by all means as well. And when that finished, I will hand over back to the studio. Once again, you can follow me every Monday to Friday on Star Radio UK, the morning show, 11 a.m. Yoruba time, 11 a.m. UK time. We're actually on the same time where you can get all the update. There's a lot of atrocity that is happening in Nigeria. I'm not going to go into that so that I do not want to get you angry more, but one thing is, those of you that say we should keep one Nigeria, there will not be a unity in Nigeria because we do not speak the same language and the same culture. We are Yorubas and we should be proud of that. Let's listen to this before we start going.
Buhari gbé tẹ́sí bíìlì wá kò wọlé àwọn ọmọlẹ́gbìmọ̀ aṣòfin ìgbà náà já kulẹ̀. Buhari gbé rúdà bíìlì wá ó tún lulẹ̀ ní o. Ní báyìí wọ́tá bíìlì ni àwọn Fúlàní tún gbé jáde. Kí ni ìtumọ̀ wọ́tá bíìlì? Wọ́tá bíìlì yóò fún ìjọba àpapọ̀ ní àǹfààní láti di alákòóso àti olùdarí gbogbo odò ilẹ̀ Yorùbá pátápátá. Ìjọba àpapọ̀ yóò sì jẹ́ aláṣẹ lórí gbogbo odò orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá. Odò Èrò, Ọ̀ṣun, Ọ̀sẹ́, Ìkọgùsì, Ọ̀gbẹ́sẹ̀, Àyọ̀nùgbà, Lẹ́kìtì. Ọmọ ìlú kò láṣẹ níbẹ̀ mọ́ àyàfi kí wọ́n gba àṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀ tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ ṣe ohunkóhun. Odò Ọ̀ṣun Òṣogbo, àṣẹ bóyá lè ṣe ti di èèwọ̀ fún ìlú. Ìjọba àpapọ̀ ti di alábàáláṣẹ bákan náà lórí odò Àṣejìrẹ́, Ẹ̀rìnlẹ̀, Àfọ̀n, Ọbà àti odò Ọ̀tìn. Odò Òmù nílùú Èkó, odò Ọ̀tàrọ̀ nílùú Ìkòròdú, Làgún àti odò Lẹ́kì, odò Ọ̀wẹ́nà lóńdó, Yewa àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ ti di tìjọba àpapọ̀. Ààlà, Ọ̀sẹ́, Ọ̀gbẹ́sẹ̀, Ìgbọ́kọ̀dá, Olùwá àbí ẹ̀gbọ́n ni kò sí pé ọmọ ìlú lè pàṣẹ ọjọ́ ọdún tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ ṣe àwọn ọdún ìmọ̀. Kódà odò Èkó Pupa tìlú Ìbàdàn tá a mọ̀ sókùn pa àyàfi kí ọmọ ìlú tàbí ọba Yorùbá gbàṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀. Odò Ọ̀gbà tí ìlú Ìṣẹ́yìn ní pípọ́ ti dé èèwọ̀ láì gbàṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀. Ohun tí wọ́n dábì ní túmọ̀ sí ni pé àṣẹ kan náà tí ọmọ Ìkòròdú ní lórí odò Májídú àbí ti Ọ̀tà ọ̀nà náà ní Fúlàní yóò ní. Àṣẹ tí ọmọ Òṣogbo bá ní lórí Ọ̀ṣun Òṣogbo ni ọmọ Fúlàní náà yóò ní àǹfààní irúfẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Kò sí àǹfààní àti bọyémọjá Ọ̀ṣun Òṣogbo, Ọ̀gbá, Ọ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀, Ọ̀tà ọ̀nà, odò Ògùn láì gbàṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba àpapọ̀. Tí ìjọba àpapọ̀ ò bá fọwọ́ sí, kò sí àṣẹ lẹ́nu ọba mọ́. Tó bá mú ìjọba ní o, bí kò sì wù wọ́n, ọba kan kò ní àṣẹ. Gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá, ọba Yorùbá, ẹ̀yin ọmọ káàárọ̀ òjíire, ẹ dìde, ẹ panupọ̀. A ò fẹ́ wọ́tá bíìlì kó di òfin o. Torí pé nígbàkúgbà tó bá wù Fúlàní ni wọ́n lè dá màálùú wọ ibikíbi nínú odò Yorùbá. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí àwọn olóṣèlú Yorùbá ta ọjọ́ ọ̀la ògo iyì ẹ̀yin ọmọ Yorùbá fún Nàìjíríà o. Gbàjàbíàmílà tó jẹ́ olórí ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin kékeré ti sọ wípé gbogbo gómìnà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àti Nàìjíríà lápapọ̀ ti fọwọ́ sí pé kí wọ́tá bíìlì ó di òfin. Ọpẹ́lọpẹ́ àwọn aṣòfin ti Benue tí wọ́n yarí pé gómìnà àwọn kò lè fọwọ́ sí irú ìkónilẹ́rú bẹ́ẹ̀. Gbàjàbíàmílà tó jẹ́ ọmọ Èkó kò takò àbá náà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni àwọn aṣojú ọmọ Èkó nílé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin náà sọ̀rọ̀. Gbogbo ọ̀nà tí Fúlàní yóò fi gba ilẹ̀ mọ́ onílẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ àti odò lèyí o. Alálẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ gbà wá o. Ọ̀rọ̀ lómi ìdó, nàmú lómi ìtàgé. Àbálámọ̀dé kìtì ẹ̀fọ̀n, àbá bíbí ìrẹ́lẹ̀ ìlú Ọ̀páárá. Àwọn ni wọ́n ṣe fá fún ẹkú tọ́tọ́ ní mìíràn. Àwọn ni wọ́n ṣe fá fún òṣàfẹ́jọ ní Mósè. Wọ́n ní àwọn bá Ọ̀rúnmìlà jagun. Ọ̀rúnmìlà ń pé ẹ lè bá àwọn jagun. Gbogbo ọmọ káàárọ̀ àjíire, ìmọ̀tú, ìmọ̀jọ, ìmọ̀ ẹni ni kì í dálẹ̀. Ogun kókun, àṣàṣìkáṣàṣì, onílé mú gbogbo ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire pátápátá. Àní àwa ọmọ Yorùbá nílé lóko. Ogun ò ní kó ilẹ̀ wa o. Àti pé ẹfun tó tọ́ ní orúkọ tí à ń pè ìwọ ẹtù. Gbogbo àbá, ìmọ̀, ọ̀tẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá ní fún Yorùbá. Ó yá ẹtù o, wá lọ sún wọn ká o. Àti pèsè jọ ní Mósè là ń pè ìwọ ìjọ. Ó yá èyí tí ẹni ilé ayé, tí ẹni ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, tí ẹni ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire. Ẹni dé o. Ó yá kí ẹ di ejò, kí ẹ ẹ wá lọ tú wọn ká lórí wọ́tàbìlì yìí orílẹ̀-ègbìmọ̀ aṣòfin kí ẹ wá lọ bá wọn jà àti pé ẹ̀yin ìyá mi ẹlẹ́yìí àjẹ́ lórúkọ tí wọ́n ń pe ogun ó yá kí ogun wọn kúrò lórí gbogbo ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire pátápátá àní ilẹ̀ ọmọ Yorùbá kí ogun padà sọ́dọ̀ àwọn tí wọ́n ní ogun ní o kí ogun má lè kó ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire àní gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá pátápátá a kò fẹ́ wọ́tàbìlì rárá o láyè kò lè wá sí ìmúṣẹ ogun dáborí ogbè ló sọ bẹ́ẹ̀.
And that is how far we can go tonight. It is now 8:33, and just before I go quickly, just to recapture what Dr. Oni says, we can do things Yoruba ways. We have our own Yoruba law. In Yoruba language, our own system of government, Omoluabi ethos, get the Nigerian disease out of us. Keep Yoruba money in Yoruba land. 75% of the income come from the Yoruba land, including the taxes that come from the southwest, Lagos precisely. We can develop Yoruba land the way we want, wind turbine. We can also educate and employ our youth. Also, it talked about in 1930, 8.5 million was what the British government took out from the Yoruba land. In 1970, 12 million pounds was what the British government took out. Also, 1.8 million is what the American took out. We also had to pay 6 million pounds to service the imperial war debt, according to the Lugard report to the parliament in UK. Fulani had not used the benefit from the Yoruba land to develop Nigeria. Also, between 1952 and 1959, when democracy works during the Britain rule, tire factory in Ibadan, the Odutola, Yoruba paid for the railway according to the British government. 1860, there was the first medical school in Africa, and that was in Abeokuta. You can be a good foot soldier if you know what we are doing. The goal is self-determination. How are we going to get there? If it's a fight, then you must also start preparing if it's a fight. If it's a diplomatic way, we must also do everything in very, very possible to get the diplomatic part of it. Enough talking now, we need action. And that is how far I can go at the 8:35. Once again, I say thank you so much to everyone that have joined us this evening. And I will be back again, same time next week. And then, like I said, my name is Ola Yomi Koiki. And on that note, I say Odabo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
In your car,
at work,
at home,
on your smartphone.